Hello again, everyone. My topic today is ghosts I would like to meet. So there's been a lot of influential people throughout history, and some people that I'd most certainly love to meet. One of them would be Mahatma Gandhi, for learning about peace and how he could really use his peaceful actions to do such great work. I would also like to talk to Siddhartha Gautama, or otherwise known as the Buddha, which is more of a religious kind of person, but he's very historical, and I would like to talk to him about knowledge, because the Buddha means enlightened one, so we'd learn more about myself and the world. And I'd also like to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. and perseverance, as he persevered through his marches, through beatings, through racism, and he still came out on top as an amazing person in our world. So to start off, Mahatma Gandhi. Pretty self-explanatory. I know most of you probably know who he is. So starting off, he is such an influential person in removing the grip of Britain through the Satyagraha movement. He removed Britain's grip on India without any violence at all. So you may think, he maybe did something violent. He probably protested. Non-violently is what he did. He even fasted as soon as his followers began to protest violently. He fasted till the point of almost the brink of death. He did this in the name of peace and unity of India, and was eventually gained victory through the Satyagraha movement to remove Britain. So if I were to talk to him, I would talk to him about how he was able to continue to seek peace and what kind of peace we need today to help our world that is at turmoil. Siddhartha Gautama. He is an amazing figure in history and in religion of Buddhism. The Buddha means enlightened one, and they believe that suffering is caused by desire. One of the Four Noble Truths that they believe. And to meet him, I would like to talk to him about how he knew these things, what it's like being enlightened one, and how do I gain further knowledge. Martin Luther King Jr., also very influential. I would talk to him about how to handle my problems. Although they may be small, he may have some little tips that will help me succeed in the greater picture. So for the ghost I'd like to meet is Gandhi for peace, Siddhartha Gautama for knowledge, and Martin Luther King Jr. for perseverance.
Ghosts. They roam our earth every single day. Whether you believe it or not, they're in search for something that may not be seen to the human eye. Now, although there are hundreds of thousands of ghosts all over the earth, from that scary one in your garage to the ghost of someone who had changed the world in a way that had never been done before. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm LAC Furtado, and today I'm here to share with you 3 of the ghosts that I would love to meet. To start, let's talk about arguably one of the most influential women to have ever walked the face of this earth, our beloved Mother Teresa. She was a woman who made change in her community. She aided those in poverty, and overall, she impacted her community in a way that had never been done before. She changed people's lives, and she showed people the true meaning of having an empathy. Blessed Mother Teresa would be an amazing woman to meet. And although, unfortunately, I would have never been able to meet her, maybe I'll meet her one day when I'm a ghost, and I can learn from all her experiences and her knowledge and use it to help other people that would be after me. The next ghost I would like to meet is the ghost of Mahatma Gandhi. He was an Indian man who had fought for things that were simply unthinkable. Although we always stand up for people's rights and do what we believe in here, I think that I might just be too cowardly to go ahead and do things that he did. He made a big difference in his community, and all of his change can never be forgotten. As stated in one of his famous quotes, "Be the change you want to see in the world." And I don't know about you, but I think that changing the world for the better is truly amazing. And if I had the power to do it, I definitely will. The third and final ghosts, I should say, that I want to meet are those of my grandparents. Now, out of my 4 grandparents, thankfully, one is still alive, and I love her to death. but she's across the world, and we don't get to spend much time together. However, all my 3 other grandparents have all unfortunately passed away when I was very young, or before that, and I would love to meet them to truly learn from their experiences and be better. Thank you.
There are so many great historical figures of our time, and even just really, really amazing people that I've heard about, that if I could talk with their spirits, it would be very, very hard, but I could point out some. I would not be able to do justice to all of them, of course, but if I had to pick key members that I would love to hear from and hear their stories and how they were, I definitely have to start with my great-grandmother. She lived in England during World War II, and I've heard so many amazing things about her, heard of the type of person that she was, heard so many funny stories from my Nan of how she was growing up that I'd like to get, first, some clarification. Second of all, I'd like to hear of how it was living in England during the Second World War, and how she coped, and how she was so brave and had to deal with the Blitz and everything, and how she had to carry on with the family, how she had to deal with rations. It would be so cool to finally have like a talk with her and figure out what kind of person that she really was. Because I've heard from my grandmother, I've heard stories, but I'd myself just like to sit down and have a conversation with her and finally get to talk to her and hear this amazing person that I've heard about. Another very key historical figure, not only for history itself, but just for Canada in general, would be John A. Macdonald. I'd love to have a conversation with him and know what it was like trying to achieve this great big dream of getting Canada together, of all the struggles he had to go through, how he coped under all of that pressure, trying to achieve this great big dream and make sure that it came true, of how he had to make certain sacrifices, I'm sure. And I'd just like to get to know what type of personality that he had, what kind of person that he was. Because I'm sure it was a very, very interesting person to have achieved such a great big goal of getting Canada together. Finally, if there was one other person, I definitely have to say Winston Churchill, because he's another great big figure that I've heard a lot about, coming from a family who is mainly consisted of people from England, and having a father who's greatly interested in all of the things that he did. So those are the people that I would definitely like to get in contact with if I could speak to their ghosts.
Imagine you're biking on your way to school. Like any other day, the sky is clear, but then the ground starts to shake. Black clouds fill the air, and you think, this is it. This is the apocalypse. Good afternoon, our judges, officers, and my fellow cadets. If I were to meet any ghosts, I'd meet the ghosts of the city of Pompeii. You all have heard this story, where an entire city was cascaded by a volcanic attack. And we can now see their bodies preserved by the ash. But my wonder is, what were the politics back then? What did they think before it happened? Why didn't all of them get to safety? And how can we use that to help us in the future? So firstly, what were the politics like? Did they know this was going to happen? And if they did they believe them? Because if someone told you that the end of the world was coming next week, would you take it seriously? Because I want to know, were there any backlash to it? Did people think that this was not going to happen? Did people rebel against the government when they told them to leave? This leads to my second point. How we can use that to help us in the future. We can use it to help us with defensive mechanisms that allow us in the future to prevent any kind of apocalyptic attack or catastrophic event. Because the way we're polluting our Earth right now, the end could be near anytime soon. Global warming, rising tides. Ever watched the movie 2012? That could happen at any moment, and I believe that the citizens of Pompeii could teach us a lot. And by meeting their ghosts, I'd be able to learn about what the life was back then. So I would meet the ghosts of Pompeii so that I would be able to learn from them. Not learn about what they ate or what they drank, but learn about something that could help us right now. Because the end could be near anytime soon.
In a modern society like ours, the mere mention of ghosts is enough to provoke laughter. Just to say that, oh, ghosts this, ghosts that. In a society where we have made so many scientific advances, that the idea that ghosts are behind anything is just ridiculous. But say ghosts were to exist. There are several people that I would like to meet. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there are many, over 99% of the humans that have lived on the world are now dead. So there are many interesting people in the past who I would like to meet. The first on my list would be John A. Macdonald, the founder of our country, presiding over the birth of a nation, starting this country from a young colony of Britain, and for example, by making a railway, he laid the foundations for our country to become the great power that it is today. Also, another person I would like to meet would be the Prime Minister of Britain during World War II, Winston Churchill. He's had a long career with the military, a very big interest of mine. He served as the Lord of the Admiralty in World War I and as Prime Minister of Britain during World War II. I think that, and he presided over a nation that was very, very nearly destroyed by Nazi Germany, and I think he would have some great stories to tell about the war. I'd also like to meet someone from the early space era, someone like Yuri Gagarin or Alan Shepard, who was among the first people to go to space. I think their experience going to space at a time when space travel was extremely dangerous. This is around a time when the fire on the first Apollo mission killed 6 people, and we hadn't had a lot of the checks and balances that would make space travel much safer the way it is today. In conclusion, I think that, yes, while ghosts are a ridiculous idea, I think they would have some good stories to tell should they exist, and I would love to meet them.
Good afternoon. As soon as I saw this topic for my speech today, I looked at it and I thought, what ghost would I like to meet? That's such a big question. But when I looked back through my whole life, I realized that I've always wanted to see the genie from Aladdin. Now, this brings me back to my youth and watching movies as a child with my other siblings. I've always loved his enthusiasm, as well as his spirit and musical talents, working with Aladdin and, of course, the Princess Jasmine. So I found that to be a great interest to me. Not only would I get to meet a ghost, but I'd have fun doing it. Also, on top of that, I'd get my 3 wishes, of course. He's the genie from Aladdin. So with those 3 wishes, I would definitely, at this moment, alleviate all the stress from the other competitors over in that room right now. But yeah, I would also have 2 more opportunities with my 3 wishes. And with that, I could do great things, such as end hunger, or even clean up some of the world's water and work that way with it. So I found that to be another great idea, or I could wish for as many wishes as I want. So with that opportunity, that would be amazing. Lastly, the whole idea, how I got this, was that it brings me back to my youth. I always had a Friday night ritual with my family, watching movies. It was always movie night with pizza, and of course popcorn. So that would definitely be cool. It'd really bring the screen to life for me. And yes, especially I would get to be with my brother and sister right now, which would bring me strength in this speech right now. But yes, it would be very entertaining to see him, and definitely a highlight of my life, as I've always wanted to be a Disney princess since I was very young. So that would be very cool, especially right now. So I would like to end with, as a child, I always dreamed of being a Disney princess. If I had this opportunity, it would allow me to not only meet him, but use my wish to make my dreams come true. And with that, I believe that I could do great things, and it would be a lot of fun for not me, but also everyone here.
It's early January. I'm sitting in the morning, first period, my physics class. These are one of the few mornings I actually made it to time in class. My physics teacher is surprised, takes my attendance down, and continues class. Our last unit of the physics curriculum is modern physics. Everyone has the same face in our classroom. Our jaws are to the floor. Because one of the many theories we learn in physics is revolving around Einstein's theories. So I sat there thinking, who would ever think of this kind of science? What kind of mind would be able to produce this kind of theories? Ladies and gentlemen, officers and fellow cadets, good afternoon. I'm here today to tell you the ghost I would like to meet today is Albert Einstein. As we know, Albert Einstein was not like many. Struggled in school, did not fit in. Yet he was one of the brightest minds known to man. I would like to meet him to understand what kind of perseverance and uniqueness it would take to succeed at that kind of level. To know that almost every single textbook every student has touched has at least mentioned Albert Einstein's name. To have your name in a textbook is quite an honor. That's why present day it is striving us young minds to think like Albert Einstein, to strive like his intelligence. Not only has his work been so far advanced of his time, there's still theories that we can't wrap our minds around. However, much of our day's advancements have been thanks to his creation. So in the future, we should motivate us students not to stick to just the curriculum alone. Think outside the box. Think like Albert Einstein. Because when you do, I'm sure his ghost will be smiling up there above.
Imagine, if you will, you're standing alone in your room, or you're doing your homework, or you're sleeping, and then the room gets cold. Your hair goes up at the back of your neck. You look around you. There's no one around you, but you know there's something there. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow cadets, honorable judges, I am Sergeant Prajapati, and today I was asked to talk about what ghosts would I like to meet. Now, to be completely honest, although I love to watch horror movies and thrillers, I am horrified of ghosts. So I wouldn't really want to meet any ghosts. But because I do have the question, let's think about it a little. For sure, I would not like to meet any ghosts that are evil, that are haunting, that are scary, because that would scare me a lot, more than I already am with ghosts, so that would be a big no. So what other types of ghosts do we have left? Well, we have guardian angel ghosts. We have nice ghosts. We have ghosts of famous people, of celebrities. So I would like to meet those types of ghosts. The first ghost that I thought about that I would really like to meet is Casper, the nice ghost. I mean, who wouldn't want to meet him? He's a little happy ghost, and he just wants to be nice to you. He doesn't want to be evil. He doesn't want to haunt you. He doesn't want to go to haunting school. He just wants to help you. So I'd like to meet Casper because maybe he would, reduce my fear of ghosts a little. Celebrities. I would like to meet the ghost of Michael Jackson. I mean, he can dance. Imagine a ghost moonwalking. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And famous people. Maybe I'd like to meet the ghost of Gustav Eiffel. Or maybe Albert Einstein. Or maybe I'd like to meet the ghost of other famous people that impacted our world right now in the way it is. Overall, ghosts to me are something that, in general, I would not really want to meet. Because they're scary, they're haunting, they're evil, or so they're portrayed as by all the movies and all the books we watch. But there's another side of ghosts. There's another side of these haunting apparitions. So if I were to meet a ghost, I would meet these nice ones. I would meet the famous ones. I would meet the ones that would make me not scared of them.
There are lots of people in the past that I would like to meet. There's people that changed the world and did many great things for the many nations on earth. There's also people that did great evils and have also changed the world and all the people that live here with us. Officers, judges, guests, and my fellow cadets. Today, I would like to speak about who and whose ghost I would like to meet. If you paid attention to my prepared speech, I talked a lot about the Avro Arrow and one of the main people that led to its downfall, which was John Diefenbaker. John Diefenbaker was one of our prime ministers, and he was a prime minister until 1963. And that was in part because of what he did with the Avro Arrow and his cancellation. I would really like to discuss with him why he did this to our country. There was a lot we could have done, a lot of great things. The Avro Arrow inspired Canadians, and it showed what we could do as a nation together to the entire world. I would ask him, we'd go out, I'd find his ghost, we'd go on a nice, well, it'd be like a lunch date sort of, but not like a date really, but it'd be a nice lunch. We'd sit down, I'd talk to him, I'd ask him why he did this to our country, what ran through his head when he told Parliament what the decision would be, and what he thought it would do to our country, what would come out of it. And after he'd given his 2 cents, maybe I'd give him a bit of my prepared speech to show him the passion our country has for that plane. And maybe I'd let him pay. Not like physically pay, but maybe for the bill. But that's just me talking, but yeah.
History. It has many unanswered questions. Questions that we may never really, truly know the answer to. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 3 ghosts that I would be interested in meeting. These 3 people are Ada Lovelace, my great-grandmother, and Mary Curie. Firstly, I will speak to you about my interest in Ada Lovelace. Ada Lovelace was a female mathematician in the 18th century. She helped create the first computer program and was an extremely amazing woman pioneer for her time. Secondly, I am interested in meeting Mary Curie. Mary Curie was a scientist in the 18th century. She discovered 2 chemical elements, radium and polonium. She risked her life working in a small tin shed filled with radiation poisoning from her experience because she was not given a proper lab. She risked her life to find developments in the scientific field. She is also the first person to ever win a Nobel Prize in 2 different categories, physics and chemistry. Lastly, I would like to speak to you about my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother passed away about 5 years ago. However, from my mother, I have heard so many amazing stories about her, and I really would like to know more. She participated in the Second World War. She suffered cancer, and she had so many other amazing experiences that I really would like to know more about. And if she were here today, I would definitely ask her about them. These are 3 ghosts that I would be extremely interested in talking to and learning their stories and what was going through their minds when they were doing the amazing things that they did. Again, I have spoken to you about Ada Lovelace, my great-grandmother, and Mary Curie. I hope that this speech has inspired you to think about the people that you would like to see and the questions that you would like to know. Thank you.
If I were to ever get the chance to meet the ghost of someone, who would I meet? And today, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you the ghost that I would like to meet. This ghost isn't just one person that's passed. No, this is the ghost that inhabits my piano. When I was a little child, I would be running around in my yard having so much fun. But
Whenever I would sleep and ask myself, how did I have so much fun by myself? I would always answer, oh, there's always been an imaginary friend. Except at the same time, I didn't think that they were just an imaginary friend. No, this ghost, this person, had a name. So then, years later, I started playing piano. And whenever I would play piano, I felt lonely. I didn't know why or how, but that's how I felt. So then, my solution was to go back to the time when I remembered how it was like to not feel lonely. So I went back outside and I played by myself until I could find my ghost friend again. This time, I found her. And because I was so lonely playing piano at home by myself, I told my ghost friend Ellie, yes, please, inhabit my piano. Because then, every single day when I come back from school to play piano, to play hours and hours and hours of piano, I would not be alone. So then afterwards, that's what happened. Whenever I played piano, instead of just hearing the sounds from my instrument, I heard the singing voice of my ghost friend. And after playing with her, playing with my friend for so many years, that is when I found out her name. I had mentioned before, Ellie was her name, but that was what I found out when I was a little kid. But through all these years of me practicing my piano, practicing playing with Ellie, I found out her full name, Williams. So now, if I were able to meet my ghost in person, I would meet the ghost that inhabits my piano, Ellie Williams.
Haunted houses, Halloween, and children's TV shows. What do all three of these have in common? Good afternoon, everyone. I am still Flight Corporal Harmony Delorier, but this time I'm going to be telling you about my impromptu topic, which is ghosts I would like to meet. Now, for starters, I would like to meet Casper the Friendly Ghost. Now, many of you may know him as the star of a very famous children's television show, but to me, he is so much more. He was a childhood companion, and he was the inspiration for my dog's name. When I first got him, he was this little white puppy, and I was like, you know what else is white? Ghosts. So, he was affectionately named Casper the Ghost. Now, the second ghost I would like to meet is Alexander Hamilton. Now, I don't know a lot about him because I haven't yet taken American history. However, he was the inspiration for a musical that I am very passionate about. Also, I think it would be very interesting to find out if he can actually sing. Now, I also think it would be very interesting to hear the kind of stories he would tell, being the political leader that he was and in a time period that he was. Now, the third and most important to me ghost that I would like to meet is my grandmother, Pam. She passed away long before I was born, but I think that meeting her would bring a whole other side of my life to light. I would not only get to hear stories about my mom when she was my age and compare whether or not we are at all alike, but I would also like to find out her famous cheesecake recipe and see if it's true that my mom makes it just like her. Now, ghosts are a lot that a lot of people like to think about, and we often wonder what comes after life. Now, there are a lot of them that I would like to meet, but because I can only pick three, I would again pick Casper the Friendly Ghost, Alexander Hamilton, because gosh, can he sing? Like, I really would like to know. And my grandmother, Pam. Thank you.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, honored judges. I will be speaking on ghosts from history that I would like to meet. Now, when I got this topic, the first person I thought of was Abraham Lincoln. Now, I'm learning in history class right now about the American Civil War, and Lincoln strikes me as a really significant person because he's interesting as a character. See, Lincoln's struggles throughout the Civil War were to balance what he thought was morally right with what he had to do to achieve it, which wasn't always the best thing. For example, when we think about Lincoln emancipating the slaves, Lincoln could only actually emancipate slaves in the rebelling states. So while he emancipated slaves in enemy states, there were still slaves within the Union that were not free. Now, this may seem counterintuitive, but Lincoln knew that that's what he had to do in order to bring about emancipation. He had to claim that the slaves were property, because by calling them property, he could free them as property of belligerent nations. I think Lincoln is interesting because he has so much insight. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was willing to go to great lengths to achieve it. And also, he died before he really got to see what all his efforts brought about, right at the end of the Civil War. I'd like for Lincoln also to see what we have accomplished today throughout the world in achieving rights and in what America has accomplished as well. However, going on about America, I also thought there's got to be some ghosts from Canadian history I'd like to meet. Then I thought, the members of the Franklin expedition. Now, they weren't Canadians, they were Brits. But that famous expedition that went missing in Canada's north, without a trace, only recently to be found, the two ships. What did those men experience? We know a little about it from the notes they left behind, scrawled in the margins of previous notes they've written. But to know about their final days and the torment they went through, and to understand that aspect of human nature, what it takes to go through such harsh situations, those are some ghosts that I would also like to meet. But beyond that, I'd like to meet the ghosts of ordinary people throughout history, because I think that they also have an immense amount to tell us. From the burning of Alexandria to Scottish history, the massacre at Glencoe, there's so many significant events throughout history that affected so many ordinary people. And I think that their stories as well deserve to be told, even if they have been lost to the history books. So most of all, I think it is ordinary people's ghosts that I would like to meet. Thank you.
May I ask Mr. Mike Boyle to actually put the awards on, and I'll start off with, in third place, Sergeant Prajapati. Congratulations. In second place, Flight Sergeant Ladisinski.
And you're buying dinner.
Thank you very much, sir.
And go ahead and guess, but it's Flight Sergeant Trenter. Congratulations.